Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. I'm your host, Stephen Panecker, and you probably are noticing, seems a little empty in the background there, Steve. Well, we're kind of moving, and so we're including the studio. So I started unboxing the other day, and so I have some books that are not here. However, I probably will add a few things in the background. So I just, for those of you who noticed that, that's what's happening. I want to welcome back to the program a couple friends here that I've had the opportunity in this past year to actually meet during my trips that I took in April. And it's a really interesting development within the restoration. And of course, many of you know Chief Mitiga. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
And Brian Nettles, who is developing an app that we're going to talk about briefly in a little bit. But I just wanted to just kind of touch base with both of you. So, Brian, of course, we met last April when I was down for the pageant, the Easter pageant in Mesa, Arizona. And of course, Chief Miniga, we met at the General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ. And so a lot's happened since then. And David, I just wanted to kind of give you the opportunity to maybe say a few words about recent developments and just give you the floor.
Yeah, sure. We have, over the last year and a half, we have worked with groups from Canada, the United States, Mexico, Guatemala, and Colombia, and even Peru on pulling forth kind of a tidal wave of information. And one of the things it touches upon is a great peacemaker, a great prophet that walked our lands, that transformed the way our grandfathers and grandmothers were. We had periods of tragedy, and we had periods of unity and division, and everything that you would see in the Book of Mormon, which is an abridgment of something bigger that happened. And we've brought that out. And there's a lot of, and it's more than we had thought. We had initially thought it'd be about a dozen records, and in October they doubled down and we received 5 dozen records. It's a last ditch effort to try to breathe air onto an ember that's almost gone. It's as complicated as, we say words like aho and ahau, and these are words that are components of a name. And that word aho or ahau, you always hear Indians saying it actually means Lord or God, and they come from a name of a peacemaker who was aho shua or ahau shua, which means Lord of bread. And our ancestors, 4 or 5 generations ago, had tried to talk about these things with the Jesuits and with the Protestants. And they were so hunted that they started just saying aho and ahau. And that same fear is gripping the traditional elders that run the ceremonies at the ceremonial sites that millions of tourists visit every year. And these are the ones who have released this, that run all 68 sites in Central America. And so for me, my mission with the restoration began in May and June of 2024. And it was saying that there are sacred records coming out. The Book of Mormon's real. It's a part of our history. And there's going to be proof from our side as we try to bring the circle back together. And that's concluded now. So my mission with the restoration is concluded. And I return now back to my tribal peoples and our tribal events and activities in the Americas as I kind of pull back. I never wanted to be in the middle or in the front. I just happened to have been chosen to be a voice. And as Brian knows, that's over for me. I don't really want it anymore.
Hmm.
And I would just close with one thing, 2 things. And thanks for letting me go a little bit here. I appreciate it. There was a lot that happened a year ago. There was a lot that happened a year and a half ago. In the first month I came out, I was on a lot of podcasts. This is an area that I had never been a part of before. I hadn't been involved with the restoration in 15 years. I was sent because part of my family were pioneers, and the other half were those that were the tribal leaders. And I got pretty attacked by the very people that are upholding the Book of Mormon simply by saying it's true. And I reacted poorly, and I apologized for that numerous times because it was something that was unexpected for me. I'm a combat veteran. I carry PTSD. As Brian knows, I don't like being challenged so much, especially when I'm your friend. Your friend is somebody who says the same thing as you, okay? And and we moved beyond that. In the fall, I led ceremonies. You know, since then, I've led the largest ceremony in South America in Colombia. I've led the largest ceremony in Central America in Chichen Itza, officiated the largest ceremony in Guatemala at the original capital and the oldest altar, where hands were laid upon me. And I was moved into the Maya Quetzal Council because part of my family are from there. And I led the largest ceremony in Sonora, which is in northern Mexico, where the Yaqui and Apache elders recognized me. I had an uncle and a great uncle die. So instead of being in an acting state, I became a full chief and was recognized in December of this last year by the Anishinaabe Governance Lodge as one of the 4 main Grand Chiefs, traditionally. And so there's been a lot of positive that happens, but it's kind of a lot of things have been drowned out by what occurred that first month. And so I would ask everybody to remember that forgiveness comes from the Creator liberally. And it's for us to forgive when somebody apologizes. I'm certainly sorry for my reaction. Secondly, this last spring, Stephen, you were a part of it. There was a miscommunication with the Church of Jesus Christ, and it kind of started a life of its own. And I would say that we worked through those things. And in November, they met, the leadership, the presidency, met down in Chiapas at Palenque at a bridge ceremony that Brian was at, yeah, where we met and made amends and became one again. We have what is the former RLDS and their apostles and the Church of Jesus Christ fully leaned in to assist us in Latin America in presenting these sacred records back to our people, as well as resting upon it the most precious parts of our history, which are found in the Book of Mormon. So thank you for having me on.
No, thank you. And I just wanted to say too, is off camera before we started the recording, I apologized for how all this went down. To you personally, I understand that it was very hurtful, and you forgave me right away, and I just want to thank you for that. And then if we can just move on from this, learn our lessons, and become better
I
people
want to
as a
say,
result.
yeah, I want to say one thing. We should always try to be better than we are. And certainly social media should be the place that we present our faith the most. We all fail. There's impacts collaterally. I got a son who for a long time had a lot of pride in the songs that are carried generationally, and because of a lot of the attacks that he saw against his dad, he is struggling to even sing again. It should never be our position to champion people out of the restoration or out of our churches, or to harm the families or children who you want to come into the restoration or into your churches. We have to remember the impressions that we leave are lasting.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the powerful words, and I'm glad we were able to have this conversation. And I wanted to bring Brian into the conversation because, of course, the key thing, of course, is what Chief Mitiga was talking about was the coming forth of these sacred records of Native Americans. And you guys have found a way to make it accessible to the general public so they have the opportunity to engage these records. So, Brian, I'd like for you just to talk a little bit about this project, and also if you want to pull up the Google Play Store where they can access these records. And of course, these are also available on iOS platform as well.
Yeah, yeah, they're available now on iOS and they're available on Android, and it's we haven't been promoting it very much just because we're just it's a new product. You got to make certain everything's good, and it's working good, and really happy with the product. I read from it every day. It's like unto the Gospel Library app. So the app is called Sacred Records, and like I said, I always thought the let me back up a little bit because I've actually been on this road that Chief Midegah's been on from the beginning when the restoration, he started working with the restoration. because I was kind of the one that pulled him out of obscurity in a sense into the forefront of the restoration world. And I have witnessed and seen um, firsthand all the things that, not all of the things, but many of the things that Mitiga has gone through. And it was actually shameful for me to see, particularly my family, treating Chief Mitiga the way that they treated him. Um, it just seemed so contrary to the gospel of Jesus Christ that, as I know it. The gospel of Jesus Christ is taught in the Sermon on the Mount and in Third Nephi. And so it was very hurtful for me to see all those things happen. But that's changing the subject. Let's get back to the subject of the application. Because originally, when this thing first started for the app, I wasn't even asked to build an app for the sacred records. It was just something that I wanted to do. Chief Mitiga was actually looking for another app, and I was starting to learn how to build apps. And I showcased it to him, and he got a little fired up about it, thinking that that was a really great idea. And it just snowballed into what it has turned into. Because none of us expected that several tribes were going to start dumping records into the hands of Chief Mitiga, and then he would turn around and hand them to us. And then we actually had to get a crew of volunteer people to learn how to take the contents of these records and put them into a format that I could upload into the database. And that was just a Herculean effort. There was no way that I could have gotten it done as quickly as it got done. And I really want to give thanks to the several individuals that were involved in making that happen. So we've got this app now, which you've got the server, you've got the client side, and you've got the content which is in the database. And so you got the database, server, and client, and it's all together now. And there are like 40 plus records in there.
Hmm.
Um, and there's even more to go in because there's still the Inca record that has been dropped into our lap that has been put into the format, but I've been working on technical issues. And so I need to upload it into the app. And so there's even more that's going to go into it. And that's like, I looked at the PDF, it was like 650 pages from the Inca people that are now going to go into this app, which is just absolutely incredible to have. You've got the Anishinaabe, you have the Great Lakes people, you've got the Mayan people, you've got the Washington State, British Columbia people, and now the Inca people in South America dropping this content into this app, and it's all in English and it's all ready to be read. And I just am just dumbfounded as I read through these things. It's just very touching. They're beautiful writings, absolutely beautiful writings. Um, so you asked me to show where
Yeah,
the app was at.
yeah.
Okay, let me
Well,
Show
go
us.
ahead.
and we would expect if you believe that the Book of Mormon is true, then you would expect there would be a generation that would speak to you. We're the first generation that could speak. The anti-Indian laws didn't lift till the 70s. We are the first generation, and they're speaking now. And it is across the Americas one simple fact: the peacemaker is the Messiah, and he's the same one you know.
Okay, and that's so we're talking about Yeshua is the peacemaker.
That's
And
right.
so that's what you're talking about. So this is in the Google Play Store, where you can access the sacred records. It's also available in the iOS as well. T Tell us a little bit about, Brian, how
Eh,
people can download this, and there's a cost involved, and just tell us a little bit about the ins and
Yeah,
outs of it.
let's talk about that. Can you see it right now?
Yep, it's up and running. Yep.
Okay, so so with Android there, with the Play Store, there's actually a URL link so that you can see it on the computer. But if you just go into the Play Store with Google with your Android based phone, you can do a search on sacred records and it will show up.
Okay.
Same thing in Apple. You go to the App Store and you just type in sacred records and it will show up. And if it doesn't show up, then also add mobile sacred apps because that's considered the creator.
Okay.
It's actually my company, which TriSummit Technologies, is actually the creator of the app. Okay, so you asked about okay, you asked about the cost. The cost is $9.99 um, per month to access them. And there have been a lot of people or some people who have been, like to complain about, oh, why do I have to pay for something? This should be for free. And you could look at the example of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which puts out the Gospel Library app for free. But
Mhm.
I want to guarantee you that the app is not free.
Right.
Um, it's free to you, but it's not free to make. I don't know how much money the church put into that app, but I would guess that it's somewhere around $20 million. I
Mhm.
don't know. That's just a ballpark estimate coming from
And
someone it's not an insider.
no individual, no individual gets any money from this. 75% goes to the Maya Quetzal Council. They run large ceremonies, which they're going to use to promote that they've always had on equinoxes and solstices. They're going to be expanding these to receive tens of thousands of people. They're going to be issuing Books of Mormon in physical hard copy. We have to be able to promote and market and run these events, and we certainly don't have churches standing up to assist in that. And so you can help us. It's as simple as the price of a latte or a coffee or a Big Mac per month. And 75% of that goes directly to the Maya Quetzal Governance Council so that they can promote the Book of Mormon to their own people at the ceremonies that their own people respect, that are certainly loved by those who are Americans who come in the millions
Mhm.
every year to these locations as tourists.
Mhm.
And starting in March, when you visit these pyramid sites, you're going to be getting Book of Mormons. You're going to be getting sacred records. You'll see QR codes.
Okay, this is great. Well, Brian, was there anything else you wanted to do on the share screen, or was that
No, I can unshare right
okay?
now.
So exit
It's
out of that.
not that
Uh,
exciting to look at that.
so that's how you can access it on the Google Play Store. And of course, I'll have a link in the description for that. And he explained how you can also access it. So I have a few questions about these records, and I'm sure a lot of people are very excited about this. So when you say all of a sudden these records are just given to you, were you shown the originals? Were you given the
Well,
originals?
they weren't necessarily given to me. There's a shared location email account that they're going into that multiple people have access to. There
Okay.
are lodges in the Northeast, in the Northwest, in Central United States, and in South America and Central America that have always communicated ceremonially. So most of these records were already transcribed on the paper in the 1800s. They went from birch paper onto regular paper as the Europeans at the time were hunting any records that we had that looked archaic. Brian was at the Great Lakes with the Anishinaabe Lodge. Some of those things, he saw some of them laying out on the tables in the original form.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of the original scrolls and there are metal plates. But this is not an unknown thing because a lot of our metal plates are sitting in museums. And so this is what they did. And what they transcribed, many of these were written in French. So if we need French versions, we already got those because the larger lodges are in Quebec. And so what they did is they just started providing them. And the theme was the great peacemaker. The guy you hear all the Indians talk about under the breath. The Iroquois are a little more bold about it in the Great Law of Peace, but the rest decided it's time. What's the worst that could happen? Everything gets taken away? We've already lost everything. We've already lost everything. So I personally have seen original records. My own family provided to me a book from 1675. Brian's seen a copy of it. Man, it's old. It's written in some sort of weird ink that they made from it, however they did it back then. 1675. That carried, history from my own family, which is just fascinating.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting. So
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was fascinating about that record is that it spoke of when the early traders from Europe were coming to America, that they were concerned about what was going to happen to their records, and they shipped a lot of them up to Alaska to the Dene.
That's right.
And so many that it's kind of you would never have
And
thought that the Dene in Alaska were going to be such an important group of people in the
that's
last
right.
days.
And they
interesting.
were. They turned out to be very, very critical.
Huh. So I wanted to ask you too, is like, so within, we have oral traditions, we have written records, we have, do you think that some of these records that were transmitted originally were written on plates? Or do you think this tradition of writing on birch scrolls goes back?
No,
Or, Like,
Yes.
how's the
So let me
transmission
stop.
working?
Yeah, how this used to be is there was a centralized library in the north and in the south.
Okay.
The one in the south was at Lake Titicaca. The one in the north was at just on the north of Lake Huron. Then in the center in Palenque, in Chiapas, Mexico, was a central meteor, and the plates used to be moved back and forth between these three locations. In the 1600s, all the plates went down to Peru. And then in the 1700s, all the plates came up to the north. And so they've moved around a lot. What would happen is the physical hard plates, like the Book of Mormon, when they put it on hard plates, that's a source record. From it, they would transcribe traveling scrolls. They're small little scrolls that look very much like what Jews use in Israel. Rabbi Schulman showed one in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And they would write messages. Sometimes it'd be one sentence, verses. Sometimes it'd be many verses, the longer it was rolled out. And a copy would be made for all directions, and it would go in all directions. So we would expect that. And so where was Moroni trying to get? He was trying to get on the north of Lake Huron. The copper and gold plates and the silver records are just 50 miles north of the St. Lawrence River. He literally was just a day's journey away from reaching where he was trying to get to. And so what would happen is they would, if the Book of Mormon's true, then we would find remnants of those metallic words on scrolls that had been traveling in many directions. We should find duplicates. And we did. And we did. And we did. If it's an abridgment from source records, a foundation that says it's true, then we should find some of those records as well. And we did, right there in the Garden River Ojibwe Nation, right at the Great Lakes, which they provided was the record of Marunhai. And it was what they found when they found his body. He wrote a message about what it was like at the very end, and it's a tragedy. It's the most beautiful of the records for me.
So,
And
so
so
this
we
and
would,
this and this is part of the sacred records. This story about
yeah,
Moroni. Oh my
that's
goodness.
right. He wrote it at the very end before he died, and they found it with him
And
as they took it
where was his body found?
in New York.
Okay. So, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
But they called him Marunhai, and this is the part that's fascinating. There's an Anglicization that occurs when anything is translated into English. There are some words that seem to match across, like Mamin is Mormon, Marunhai is Moroni, Jagob is Jacob, Joseph is Joseph, Lahai is Lehi. These are known terms. And when I ask the elders in the lodges, because I'm a Midegah, I'm one of the main high priests of the Midegah, Google it. It's the oldest faith on the continent. And I said, why don't we talk about these things? They never asked. And I've been saying this for 2 years. At no point in time did a restoration branch ever come and speak to them. Down in Mexico, when the Book of Mormon was taken to the sacred tree and placed on it and recognized in front of all the churches and 68 communities, one of the things that they did is cried and wept when they held it because they'd never seen it before. You have to understand there are people that live in a bubble that moved away from Western incursion. 50% of Latin America are direct immigrants from Spain. The other 50% are domestic, and 70% of them have nothing to do with anything Christian related because of conduct. Conduct. That's what happened.
Okay. Wow. And so I can understand why, if they had these sacred records, that they would not want to have them be exposed or
But let's
seen, because they probably would
but
have been
let's
destroyed.
and let's think about conduct.
Hmm.
There's the assumption that the Indian is uneducated.
Mm.
The head chief of the Maya is a doctor with a professional degree in Guatemala. And she's treated poorly by people who are outside of the community. I have a graduate degree, served in the United States Marine Corps, combat veteran, personally got on my knee and put 24 flags in the hands of loved ones, took a body home. How am I treated? They watch and observe those that are uneducated by your standards, and they see how we are treated, and they say, can we trust these people? And that's why we haven't released hard copies yet, and we're keeping it in the app where you can't download it and you can't copy it, because there is a period of having to establish trust. We would call on everybody to come or make an effort to come to the large ceremonies. They're going to be massive this next year. And the whole purpose is everything you've been believing would happen. You have a general conference and people dress up really nice to go sit in a big building. There's a number of buildings. I've been in them with you, Stephen. But these are outdoors. And they're people that are very poor and impoverished that need something to believe in. And there's nothing greater than to believe in than that you are Christ's people, that you are sacred and you can be restored.
Okay. Well, I wanted to also
See
just
that?
talk a little bit about the contents as well. And Brian, you had said you wanted to maybe do a reading of one of these records to get a sense, so the audience gets a sense of the contents. But before we did that, Brian, I just wanted to ask you too, um, when you're engaging these texts, Chief, do you think that these records should all be taken literally, symbolically, a little bit of both? Is it like how do you grapple
Well, I
with
mean,
these records?
if I read the Book of Mormon or I read the New Testament, there's some portions you take literally and there's some portions that are parables.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, why would you apply a different standard?
So basically
If
the same thing. So there's stuff that might be legendary and mythological.
Yeah, it's always going to be I don't know the parables. There's going
Mhm.
to be those that are lessons being taught. Now, there are those that are plain and simple truths. The closer you get to the first century, the plates of copper and gold, those records that were the most important records for the first 200 years after he left. The silver records outline the custodians of that. These have the actual words written by those who walked with him as he went to the Rocky Mountains, and every location is listed. You can literally get in your car and you can drive to the locations and you know exactly where Jesus walked, all the way down to South America. It's listed, and you know the problems and the divisions he faced. These are literal things, and they're more clean. As you get closer into further away from that, you're dealing with memories. You're dealing with people trying to teach what their forefathers knew. What many don't know is we had 2 10-generation periods of serious conflict. The fifth, sixth, and seventh century, for 10 generations, there was no ceremony. This would be right after Moroni died. And this is known across the land. Then there's a period of stability with a lot of immigration that came in from about the 7th and 8th century up to the 11th century, a massive amount of immigration coming in. And then you have another 10-generation conflict in the 11th, 12th, and 13th century that covered the continent before the Europeans came in and walked into the end of chaos. Well, in these periods of chaos, there's going to be things recorded that they're symbolic. There's things that are literal and symbolic, but they all point to one truth. He was ours. We knew him, and we were sacred.
So real quick, I know there was a book that came out from a non-member called "He Walked the Americas." Would you say that is that? What do you think of that book? Have you ever read it?
I had it given to me for the first time this year, and I
Okay.
and I and I took it with me down to Central and South America. I actually, when I was in Guatemala at the oldest capital with the oldest altar, with the director of Maya studies from the Guatemala University, that like the main guy, and we were going through it. Yeah, it's absolutely. Somebody felt something, and they went and tried to do some basic research. And you had people that were afraid to talk. So they shared basic information, not sure if it's somebody fishing to crucify him. And so what he captured was, the white foam on waves. And what we do is fill in the whole volume of where the heck that actually came from. So I'd say pretty good start. Now, let me freeze for a second. The Catholic Church, the one out of Rome, they provided us 14 documents and called for us to give forgiveness. These 14 documents, which we are going to release on the app, they're from the Catholic Church from the 16th and 17th centuries, 18th century, where there are priests and there are those who are observers We're sending notes back saying the Yehoshua of Jesus is the same as their Yehoshua. What do we do? What do we do? And there's responses saying, burn everything. Because if it was true that we were Indios, children of God, in a fractured state, portions living good, portions living bad, same as the US today, then the doctrine of discovery would have protected us and it would have prevented anything from being taken from us. It would have been a shield of protection. Wherever he had gone, you couldn't take anything from those people. And so they had to erase it. For those in the North, this didn't occur until the 1640s, when the Jesuits came to Bawating, the place of rapids, Garden River, you'd call it Sault Ste. Marie now, dead center of the Great Lakes. And the Jesuits then started burning thousands of scrolls. Down in the South, in Palenque, this occurred right there in the middle of the 1500s. In 1524, you had the leadership murdered. You had everything taken and fled north and south.
Wow. Well, and of course, when we talk about records, I just wanted to ask you, do you believe that these actual records that are written on plates will eventually come forth? And then also we
Yeah,
could then cross-reference the records with the sacred record that you're putting.
yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be a meeting every single May in a lake in Quebec. And there's
Okay.
going to be certain leaders and spiritual leaders that'll be taken in person to meet and touch physical things. This will occur once a year. Now, on the other hand, here's one thing that we're noticing is who do people think they are? They knock on our doors and they bring the Book of Mormon, they bring the Bible. And if we said, well, where's the original source record? Are you letting everybody walk around with the original source record? So we would say, we would expect the same respect. We've lost enough of our things, and you see it every single week. Fights with museums and fights with governments to get things, headdresses kept in Spain, items in France and Germany and England. We couldn't keep control of our children. We couldn't keep our women for sterilization. We couldn't keep our families together. We certainly couldn't save our language as well as we could have because of the policies. The last thing we're going to do is to have the source documents of who we actually were, which were supposed to inspire who we could be, taken away. Now, I would tell you, initially, Brian knows, we were welcoming those to come to the lodges, and there was a few distinct lodges that were opening up, and people tried to break in houses.
Hmm.
So that got shut down because that's the respect when you have to remember, they're judging you. They're judging you. What's your character and conduct? And we've found a lot is lacking. And so we'd say, have you actually read the book? If you've read the Book of Mormon, you know Lehi had some troubled sons, Laman and Lemuel. And he had some good sons, Jacob and Joseph. And he had a guy kind of in the middle, Samuel. He's just kind of there. And their descendants flip-flopped in righteousness numerous times. But you would certainly know that the promises that were made from Lehi to his son Jacob and Joseph are for their descendants, not those of Laman and Lemuel. And so when you meet an Indian, you should be trying to decipher, are they descendants of Laman and Lemuel, Lama'a and Lamii, or Joseph and Jacob, Joseph and Jacob? And when you find a similarity, build a brotherhood, build a sisterhood, and then they'll share with you as you share with them. They'll affirm what you're sharing, as happened to Brian. He was at the lodge, and at first it was a big brick wall because this is what they're used to. And then there was a day of a breakthrough. Well, yeah, let's talk. But it comes with respect. And these people have been the most disrespected.
Interesting. Well, Brian, I wanted you to maybe chime in here because I know you probably have something to say, but also maybe do a reading from one of these records as well.
Yeah. Gosh, do I just go straight into the reading? I'll just say that my trips that I've gone either to the lodge in Ontario, in Canada, or to the trip to the Yucatan in Mexico, is the spirit is there. The spirit of God is there when you are ready to receive truth and worship the Savior and share what you have and receive what they have. And that mutual respect has just resulted in some really wonderful experiences to me. It's been a joyous occasion at every event that I've gone to. And I'm looking forward to more of these types of events. And I'm really hoping that it's going to have an impact on other people in bringing them to the gospel of Jesus, our Savior. Okay. So I'd like to go ahead and read right now from the Big Turtle, which is in the Sacred Apps. And I've read this more than one time. I mean, one of the times I read it, I was just breaking down in tears. But this is Yehoshua speaking to the people. He says, "See these hands and these feet. They bear the memory of betrayal, of friendship turned to harm, of those who sought to silence the love I carried. Know that even love can be tested, even the heart of a faithful soul can be pierced. And yet see the Creator's light remains unbroken, enduring, luminous. Do not fear wounds, little ones. They are not the end, but the shaping of the soul. Through suffering comes understanding. Through betrayal comes compassion. Through the darkness, the light of God shines most clearly. I was young when I first came to this land. I crossed the great ocean with my mother, a child no older than some of you here. The waves were immense and the wind harsh, yet her hand held mine, and her faith in the Creator guided me. She whispered prayers to the sun and the moon, and I learned that even in the fiercest storms, the Spirit of God walks with you. Do you see, children of the earth, life is a journey across oceans, through storms, through trials. My own heart was pierced by friends I loved, by those I trusted, and yet even then the Creator's love was my compass. The wounds I bear are not shame. They are the map of my passage through the river of life, and they are proof that love endures beyond betrayal. Each scar, each pain is a seed. From it grows understanding, patience, and compassion. The Creator allows suffering not to break the soul, but to reveal its depth. My journey across the oceans, the hands my mother holding me, the betrayals I faced, they all shape the heart that now walks with you. If you open your hearts, you will see that your own suffering too is a gift, a teacher, a bridge to God. Fear not your wounds, little one. Each mark on your heart, each bruise upon your spirit can be offered to God. Let it become a light that guides others. Even I, who walked across oceans and through storms, was pierced by those I loved, carried the Spirit within me, and so do you. The Creator makes all things sacred, even suffering. Remember, children of the soul, the wounds ye bear are not your shame, but your testimony. Let them teach you humility. Let them teach you love. Let them teach you the depth of the Spirit that resides within every living being. And when ye walk with God, even the greatest pain becomes a wellspring of grace. Walk, children of the earth, carry your light, carry your scars, and know that the heavens themselves rejoice in the faithful soul that endures, that loves, that trusts the Creator, even the storm. So that's pretty much the words of Yehoshua or Jesus to the people.
Uh,
Wow.
Aho.
And that's just one reading.
That's
Just
just one
one reading
chapter.
in there. And how much stuff is in these apps? I mean, I imagine, I mean,
We have we received, just want you to know,
yeah,
initially we had about 700 pages
700
of
pages. Okay.
the site 12 that you would think. We're over 8,000 now. It's everything. There is nothing more. There won't be something coming out from Indians anymore. This is it. There's nearly 8,000 pages of information.
Wow. And
It's this tsunami to try to tell those who are Christian, who are Jew, and who are Latter-day Saint or Restoration, get your crap together and become one.
all right. Wow. Interesting stuff. Get your crap together and ready to become one. That's good stuff there. I think that's a message we can all agree on. I love it.
Clean it up.
Before we wrap this up, I just wanted to ask both of you to maybe say some final words. Brian, one of the interesting things to me was like you had said, I'm still engaged in these records and I'm learning so much. And for you, it's been a testimony builder, has it not?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this whole journey, it's gosh, I don't know where you go. I mean, my journey actually started about 7, 8 years ago when I started getting into the geography piece, and it was starting to take, spiritual truth and turning it into physical proof. And then I got into the language piece, and it was once again, it was turning spiritual proof into physical proof. And the language piece went on for a few years, and it was just an amazing journey. And now I was led to find Chief Mitiga nearly 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago. And what has been brought out since then is another, I mean, you talk about turning up the volume. Um, Now I'm seeing these records, and they are once again even further testifying that Yehoshua, Jesus, the Anointed One, is our Lord and our Savior, that He loves us and cares about us, and He wants us to walk with peace. All these contentions, it says in the Book of Mormon, it says in the New Testament, let there be no contentions among you. Yet we are so full of contentions. When I look at the podcasters in the LDS world today, it's contention, contention, contention. Podcasters in pretty much everywhere, the politics of the world today, it's all contention. And it causes me to ask the question, so when Jesus visits the Nephites in the Book of Mormon and he says, let there be no contentions among you, after he teaches the most basic of doctrines. And the most basic of doctrines are repent, become as a little child, have a broken heart and a contrite spirit, receive baptism, receive the gift of the Holy Ghost and the baptism of fire. And that's his doctrine, and that's what he says. And anything beyond that is not of me. Anything beyond that is called my gospel is not of me. And so when we as a people are living in a world full of contention, it causes me to ask the question, when he says no contentions, does that mean unity of thought so everybody thinks the same? Or does it mean just unity of being together and loving each other for who we are and turning to the Savior for the basic teachings for salvation? And so that's just the message that I have to share.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian, for sharing that. And Chief, I wanted you to close this up and wrap this up and just kind of share your thoughts today.
I've had quite the journey in my time publicly speaking to restoration peoples. It's concluded with your show today. There won't be another. I'm going to my people to work with my people. I'm laying a foundation to share the Book of Mormon upon a foundation of truth, not just because somebody in a suit and tie knocks in the door and says, believe me, but because we provide enough preponderance of evidence from leaders they trust already and say, now this is true too, because they all accept everything we've released. I would say to the restoration, don't champion anyone out of your camp. If somebody doesn't agree with you exactly, show them more love. That we should live with the love of Christ. And if he made man and woman to be one, then certainly his components as one is found in both genders. That when we were formed in our mother's womb, the first sound we heard was her heart. Who fashioned that heart? Who put the intention in that heart, the love for you? That the first feeling we felt was that heart. We share that in common. If that's the only thing we agree on, then we should embrace in love and kindness. But we were formed in that sacred water of her womb that he fashioned for us to grow within in this earth. We were birthed or baptized into this broken world. And we know it's broken. I know it's broken. But we have to be a part of the solution. And that means pulling people close, not being afraid to stand in a circle, not being afraid to be in the spaces of those we don't understand, and to welcome them into your space and let there be no division among you. Division could also be, well, I don't like how you think. Well, if you haven't walked their life or lived their experiences, you don't know why they think how they think. So talk to them. It's not about growing a corporation. It's about bringing a family together. A family together. Never forget. The Book of Mormon is a record of my ancestors. And its great mission, the great vision of those who transcribed it onto those plates, so that they would endure into your hands was to restore my family to unity. Your great mission is right now. You're the generation to do it right now. And if not now, when the very ones who run the sites and run the ceremonies are saying, let's do it together, then when? Then when? And so I would say that have more compassion, have more understanding, give more forgiveness. In the year and a half since I had my meltdown on YouTube, I look at the video every day, okay? And I had it. I had the day where it was too much because I'm a human being. I'm not polished. In that year and a half since, I went from a little clan headman, one of 49, to being one of the 4 grand chiefs traditionally of 300,000 Anishinaabe, to being one of the 13 chiefs on the Eagle Council of North America, to being one of the 13 chiefs on the Quetzal Council of Central America, to leading ceremonies and being the keynote speaker at the largest ceremony at Saratusa in Colombia, at the largest ceremony at Chichen Itza in Yucatan, at the largest ceremony in Sonora in northern Mexico. And so there's been a lot of good that's come from that, which inspired and influenced our traditional leaders who held what made them feel special to have our people sit in their space and they would share line upon line as the people showed up, to reveal it for you, to confirm your faith, to bring you to the table with them. Ceremonies that were closed prior are open now. We'd ask for participation, not for a final assimilation. You may see that I'm dressed nicely because I'm in your space. But when you come in our spaces, be accepting and tolerant. It's really important and critical. And those that affirm you are your friends. Embrace them. And I would say about the records, I'm still reading them. Brian knows. I was down in Sonora and we had a massive flood, Stephen, and all the electricity went out and all the water went out and I wasn't actually able to see for a 2-week period about 30 something records that came in, and so I'm still reading too.
Hmm.
But what it's doing for me is it's drawing me closer to my pioneer ancestors, and it's making me feel very grateful that my Smith family and my Taylor family and my Millett family and my family from the 1800s that were pioneers never let go, no matter what they faced or the struggle they faced. And it's pulling me closer to the restoration. It's pulling me closer to the Church of Jesus Christ. It's pulling me closer to the Joint Conference of Restoration branches where 6 apostles speak with me every single day. It's pulling me closer to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and to forgive them for their failings because I got them too. I got them too. But now's the time to be more and do more. And the doing of the more is show more tolerance and love. They're not going to fit your box. You wouldn't fit the box of the people who are in the book you carry around. And so I would close with that. And if it's okay if I share a short poem.
Sure.
And I just want to re-hit this because it's really important. It's the one thing we share, is that mother's love, who no matter if her child commits the crime of murder, she gives him the love of his innocence unconditionally. That's Christ-like love. He put the symbol of his heart right in the midst of our family. And for those that know their mothers, you understand. I know you understand, Stephen, that you were formed in your mother's womb from the plants and animals that she consumed, that were nurtured and grown from this sacred earth in which our ancestors today equally lie. You are my brother. You are my sister. You are their prayers made flesh. So be more and do more today so that their life had worth. So thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the program today. And so this is the final message. You're going to go back to your people and do the work that you feel that you're called to do. Brian, you're going to continue the work of adding to the App Store, and so people can access all these things. Gentlemen, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the program. And Brian, why don't you pull up the share screen real quick again so people can see where they can get access this. And again, we will have this linked in the description as well. And yeah, this has been a great conversation. So it's the sacred records, or if you go in there and say mobile sacred record, sacred apps, those would be the two ways that you could find that in both Google Play and at the iOS format as well. So, okay, excellent, Brian. And thank you so much again for both of you coming on the program today. And I just want to tell people that we will have links in the description to everything that we talked about. If you want to include any websites or whatever, please just email them to me, and I will provide the links for those as well. And of course, we have links in the description for those of you who'd like to financially support the channel. We do want to thank you so much for your contributions. Couldn't do it without you. But remember, the most important thing is this: all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews.